I caught her coat before I even saw her face. That heavy slap of white fur hit me in the chest so hard, I had to step back to keep from stumbling into the damn closet door. The smell of her perfume, something expensive and pointless, clung to it like mold. She didn't say hi, didn't even make eye contact. Just tossed it like I was some hotel rack and muttered, "Try not to screw up the lining this time," with the kind of voice you use on someone you forgot you hated. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. My name's Darren, I am 39, I live in St. Louis, Missouri. And at 1:40 in the morning, I was stuck working rope and coat check at a place called the Halcyon, smelling that mix of spilled liquor, fake confidence, and desperation people call fun in their 30s. I wore a black polo and no-slip shoes like I was ready to sprint through an oil spill. My back was already starting to lock up. I spotted Karen Denton the second she stepped through the front entrance like she was entering a damn movie set. White fur, red heels, and that smug tilt of her chin that screamed, "I don't wait in lines." She was flanked by two women who looked like they'd had the same surgeon and a tall guy with slicked back hair who definitely wasn't her husband. Karen didn't just walk, she floated, like the floor was too good for her. The staff clocked her right away too. Everyone stiffened. She'd made herself a local legend, not for being famous, but for being impossible. She once made a bartender cry because her drink had 2 cubes instead of 1. People called her Karen, but not because of the internet. It was just accurate. She scanned the VIP lounge like she was looking for prey, not a place to sit. She snapped her fingers at a waitress, rolled her eyes at the music, whispered something about the lighting being cheap, and then laughed way too loud. She didn't laugh at jokes, she laughed to establish dominance. And then her husband showed up. Grant Denton, tech money, billboard smile. That kind of guy who could insult you and make it sound like he was complimenting your haircut. He walked past me, dropped a wet umbrella like I was a mop bucket, then slowed down, squinted. "You remind me of some guy who used to run a dump," he said. Then he kept walking. I hung Karen's coat, tagged it with a random number. I didn't flinch, I didn't blink. 3 years earlier, I wasn't catching coats like a trained dog. I owned a spot called Lumen House, 5 blocks down from Halcyon. It was a small club, low ceilings, concrete floors, exposed beams. Nothing flashy, but it was mine. I stripped it down from a busted old retail space and built it back up with my hands and what was left of my savings. Ran it clean, tight staff, clean books, no drama. I wasn't trying to be the next big thing. I just wanted to build something that worked and treat people right. Then Karen Denton walked in. It was a Friday. Line out the door, DJ spinning low and dirty. She pulled up with 3 women in shiny dresses and a guy who looked like he sold cocaine to executives. She didn't wait. Just breezed past the line with that "I know somebody" smirk and went straight for the door guy like he owed her an apology for existing. He stopped her. She rolled her eyes. He told her she wasn't on the list, and she let out that fake little laugh rich people use when they're deciding how hard to press. She leaned in and said, "My husband funds half the tech scene in this city. Let me in." I walked over and told her straight, "Not tonight." She blinked like I'd slapped her with a court summons. "Do you even know who I am?" she asked, slow and cold. "I know you're not on the list," I said, "and I don't care whose wife you are." Her mouth twitched, not a smile, more like her face couldn't decide what expression to land on. I held my ground. She walked off without another word, but I knew that look. I'd just made her feel small. The quiet started the next week. At first it was subtle. A couple regulars stopped showing up. A corporate happy hour canceled last minute. Then a slick little article popped up on a local nightlife blog. Something about unregistered vendors and cash flow concerns at downtown venues. Didn't name me. Didn't have to. Every name-drop crowd in the city knew exactly who it was hinting at. I lost a major booking that same week, then another. My phone started ringing less. Investors I'd known for years suddenly needed to circle back. One of them finally met me at a coffee shop on Cherokee and wouldn't even hold eye contact. He said, real quiet, "Off the record, Dentons are saying you're under federal review, that they're being told not to get close." I didn't panic. Then the health department showed up. Complaint-based inspection. Late Friday afternoon. The worst possible time. They walked in like they were hunting something. Said they couldn't verify the cleaning log. Said they noticed irregular storage in the dry pantry. Total garbage. But they shut me down for the weekend pending review. That was the nail. I missed out on revenue I couldn't replace. My landlord got nervous. My lenders got skittish. People started asking questions I couldn't afford to answer. That neon orange closure sticker on my front door might as well have been a death certificate. 6 weeks later, I was out of the lease, out of the apartment above it, and neck deep in personal debt. No more club, no more savings. Just me, a used mattress, and creditors who didn't want my excuses. Then I saw her. Karen was walking out of a Chase branch near Solard. She caught my eye, raised her hand, and gave me this little wave, like she was saying hi to someone in a lower tax bracket. Then that smile, tight, smug, like the end of a joke only she thought was funny. I cut my hair with clippers in a bathroom that smelled like mildew and cracked plastic. Got rid of the beard, too. Nothing fancy, just enough to stop looking like the guy from the Lumen House flyers. I bought 3 black polos, 2 pairs of dark jeans, and shoes made for standing, not walking. Then I vanished in plain sight. I picked up temp work first, trash haul for a kitchen, basic delivery shifts, warehouse unloading at night. Whatever paid cash or minimum wage. My phone was off most of the time. I wasn't calling anyone. I wanted quiet. I wanted time. A friend I used to bartend with hit me up out of nowhere. Said Halcyon needed weekend operations support and door help. I told him I'd think about it. He said the GM was desperate and not picky. I applied under my middle name, Thomas Garrett, showed up with a made-up resume full of mid-level restaurant work. Stewart, the general manager, was a sweaty little guy with a clipboard and nervous eyes. He asked what my availability looked like. All weekend, nights, holidays, I said. You good with late hours? He asked. Don't sleep much. He squinted at my application and said I looked familiar. I shrugged. Probably saw me working at a Chili's out west. He nodded too fast, the way people do when they want to believe you and move on. I got the job that night. For the first few weeks, I did what everyone else did, kept my head down and moved fast. I ran trash, stocked bottles, restocked napkins, set up rope lines, and fixed that one busted card reader nobody wanted to touch. I started learning the place inside out. Their point-of-sale system was glitchy. Their VIP app was slick but full of holes. The delivery schedule was sloppy. 3 different vendors, and nobody had proper backup. And most of their staff only stayed because finding another gig felt worse than staying quiet. Karen showed up twice in my first month. I clocked her instantly, even with new hair and colder eyes. She hadn't changed. Still snapping for servers, still playing royalty in a place that ran on half-broken glassware. Her husband only showed for big events, like he was clocking in for press photos. She ran the night-to-night game. She treated staff like chewing gum, talked through them, over them, around them, tipped like her money needed to be disinfected afterward. I started keeping notes, not emotional crap, clean, useful records, date, time, incident, witnesses if I had them. I didn't write them on the company time. I kept it all separate. I also started pulling security cam clips when I could. Little moments where she crossed the line. Nothing major, but real. I kept them on an encrypted drive, just in case. I wasn't planning anything, not yet. But I was watching. I found out who was already burnt out, who hated her, who was scared to speak up. I never pushed them. I just told them, you're not crazy. Just remember what you see. And at night, I studied. I didn't watch Netflix. I didn't scroll Instagram. I pulled city records, ownership filings, lease agreements, vendor contracts, corporate tax docs. I wanted to know exactly who had control over what. Turned out Halcyon didn't own the building. They leased it. And the parent company that held the lease was stretched thin across 3 cities, chasing expansion money. Too much image, not enough stability. If someone moved in on the right paperwork, it wouldn't take much to tip it all sideways. That's when it clicked. Power's not magic. It's fear wrapped in paperwork. Most people don't question it. They just assume they can't touch it. But once you figure out where the cracks are, you don't scream, you wait, then you pull. Once I saw the cracks, I knew exactly who to call, and I gave it time. I reached out to two guys who used to have skin in Lumen House. One was retired real estate money. The other ran a string of car dealerships and liked pretending he was still scrappy. They didn't exactly love me after the collapse, but they really hated Grant Denton. One of them, Troy, had been humiliated by Grant in some investor mixer, corrected publicly over valuation math in front of a bunch of other suits. That kind of thing sticks. We met in a steakhouse booth in Kirkwood, no drama, no pitch deck, just real talk, followed by weeks of calls, paperwork, and waiting. "I'm not here with a revenge story," I said. "I'm here with a math problem." They listened. I laid it out. Don't buy another club. That's ego. That's noisy. Instead, buy the dirt under a club. Buy the contract holding the lease. Buy the vendor bottlenecks. You don't need to own the front door. You need to own the pressure behind it. "What's the target?" Troy asked. "Halcyon," I said. Both of them paused, and I could see the wheels turn. We set up a shell company, dry name, basic logo. Looked like one of those boring property holding firms you see on industrial mailboxes. We brought in a real lawyer, real accountant. This wasn't about hiding in the dark. It was about moving in daylight so boring nobody looked twice. First move, liquor. The state Halcyon operated in had ancient tight rules around alcohol distribution. One of those, you need a relationship to survive type setups. I found a distributor who already served Halcyon and hated the way the Dentons negotiated. Through a partner company, we bought the distributor's regional contracts. That gave us the right to set credit terms and reorder windows. The next move was the property note. The building owner had refinanced 6 months earlier, and the loan was sitting with a mid-sized lender that was already shopping for buyers. We didn't approach direct. We waited until they ran a quiet liquidity round and sent a soft offer through one of Troy's shell companies. It got accepted faster than we expected. Now we had two hands on the steering wheel, their booze and their lease. Inside the club, I stayed silent. Stocked bottles, mopped floors, kept my head down. Karen still floated through like she was queen of the castle. She made cracks about how they were scraping the bottom of the barrel, hiring guys like me. She called one of the runners useless in front of customers. She made sure I heard her say I looked familiar, but not in a good way. It didn't bother me, not anymore. She thought she was stabbing me. She didn't realize I was already holding the blueprint to the building she was standing in. This wasn't about getting her back for a fur coat toss or a smug little wave outside a bank. I wanted to dismantle the air she breathed, not in a loud, dramatic way. I wasn't trying to humiliate her in front of a crowd. That's what people do when they want attention. I wanted something slower, something controlled, a quiet failure, one where she'd have to stand in the middle of it, powerless while it all unraveled, and know she couldn't scream her way out of it. The weekend hit hard. Some post-acquisition party for Grant's company, big money crowd, camera-ready guests. Halcyon had banners up, velvet ropes out, and VIP table dressed like it was New Year's Eve. Nights like that kept the place afloat. One bad event, and the whole illusion started cracking. Karen showed up early, too early. She had that clipboard energy like she was there to do inspections. Hair slicked back, big designer bag, no smile. She did a slow walk across the floor like she was checking for dirt with her eyes. She waved over the bartender before we even opened to the public. "I want the Douce XO neat," stirred gently over crushed ice, strained back out. The bartender blinked. "So, neat but also stirred with ice?" Karen gave this tight smile like she was explaining water to a fish. "You heard me." Drink comes out. She takes one sip and sets it down like someone just handed her warm tap water. "Tastes like it's been open too long," she said. Then added, just loud enough for me to hear, "Service really went downhill after they started hiring people from failed venues." She didn't say my name. She didn't need to. I kept my face blank. Not angry, not amused, just working. In the back, Stuart was sweating through his shirt, on the phone with the liquor vendor, voice high, hands flapping. I lingered long enough to catch the edge of the panic, There'd already been a delay earlier in the week, and he was trying to make sure nothing else slipped. That's when I made the move. I logged into the distributor portal from my phone, the one we legally controlled now through the new ownership group. I scrolled to Halcyon's account, clicked credit hold, and submitted the flag. It was that simple. No drama, no flags waving, just a checkbox. That hold meant no more liquor deliveries would go out until the account was cleared with a new point of contact: me. By late afternoon, emails started flying. Stuart came back into the lounge pale and jumpy. I passed him in the hall as he muttered to someone on the phone. "No, I don't know what they mean by new contact. Who the hell signed that?" The bar manager asked me if I'd heard anything. I said I hadn't. Just kept moving like any other worker, trying to stay clear of upper management confusion. Out front, Karen was on her third drink, still snapping fingers, still waving empty glasses like they were summons. She asked for another bottle for the table, then a different garnish, then a different kind of straw. She didn't know she was watching the end of their clean supply. That was the last full restock they'd get before Monday. The weekend would ride on what was already in-house, and what was already in-house wasn't enough for a full VIP crowd. I watched the staff pick up on it. Not panic, just awareness. A bartender wiped down the same counter twice. A server who usually looked tired actually smiled when Karen asked for a lime and got handed lemon. No one said a word, but they move lighter because service workers know. They know when a storm's coming, and they know when the worst person in the room's about to get caught without an umbrella. I didn't say anything to her that night, didn't tip my hand. That was the beauty of it. No blow-up, no headline, just quiet satisfaction as the first piece came loose, and nobody even realized it yet. By the time the next night rolled in, you could feel the tension before you even got near the door. The crowd came early, startup guys in overpriced jackets, local influencers dragging tripods, wives in new dresses pretending not to compete. The staff was running on fumes and half-stock shelves, but Halcyon still tried to keep the illusion polished. Glossy lights, deep bass, free champagne flutes nobody asked for. Fake shine over real cracks. Grant showed up expecting his usual parade. He pulled up in a black BMW, leaned back like royalty, and waited for the valet kid to open his door. Only the kid didn't move, just stared at his little screen like it was broken. "Sir," the valet said, "there's a restriction tag on your plate." Grant leaned forward. "What does that mean?" "I can't process the ticket. You'll need to self-park." It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some gotcha trap. Just a quiet systems-level change, triggered earlier by me in the admin panel of the valet vendor's third-party app. Their security sucked. Nobody noticed. Grant stared at the kid like he was supposed to blink and fix it. "You know who I am?" "I'm not allowed to take the car without a ticket, sir." Grant had to pull off and park in a public garage a block and a half away. It was drizzling, just enough to be annoying. When he came back through the entrance, his collar was wet and his face was doing that tight, fake smile thing powerful men do when something dents their pride. Inside, Karen was already mid-routine. She made a beeline for their favorite booth. Corner section, elevated platform, best sightline in the lounge, and stopped dead. A yellow laminated sign sat on the table. Section closed for maintenance. She spun around, found Stuart, and motioned him over like she was royalty and he'd spilled the tea. "Why is our booth closed?" she snapped. "Building safety flagged it for inspection," Stuart muttered, eyes darting. "I'd put in the work order that morning. Subfloor sag near support joint. Just enough to trigger liability red tape. No manager's dumb enough to override a potential lawsuit." Karen's face tightened. "So move the sign." I can't." She hissed through her teeth and stormed to the next booth, muttering about incompetence. I stayed close enough to hear it, but far enough to stay invisible. Then came the queue shift. Halcyon used a digital order system that auto-ranked table priority, VIPs first, tourists last. I'd recoded the tags on their account to drop their table to standard priority. Nothing crazy, just a couple levels down. Karen ordered a round. It didn't come. She waved down a server, ordered again. Still nothing. Meanwhile, the table behind them, two college kids drinking cheap beer, got their order first. Then the birthday group near the bar. Karen's drink finally arrived 30 minutes late, and missing the garnish. She exploded. "Are we being ignored?" No one responded. She stood up, waved both arms, made a show of it. Another round got delayed. Staff walked right past her because the screen told them to. Orders were stacked. Hers just wasn't high anymore. People noticed. They always do. Not the quiet whispers. Those come later. This was the weird laughter that floats just loud enough to be noticed, but soft enough to deny. A few phones came up. Not because of the drinks, but because everyone loves watching someone important get treated like they're not. Grant leaned in, whispered something to her, probably told her to calm down. But Karen's whole identity ran on control, and you could see it slipping one missed cocktail at a time. I stayed moving, collecting glasses, wiping counters, resetting menus. Just another guy in a polo doing his job. But I watched. By the time the club emptied out, the floor was slick with spilled liquor and plastic straws crushed flat under boots. Music off, lights half up, voices gone. Just the hum of the fridge and that low, hollow sound you only hear when the building exhales. I walked the floor alone, not with a clipboard, not with a mop, with keys, not staff keys, real keys, the kind that opened everything. Front door, office, liquor cage, and the side entrance where Karen always slipped in without waiting. I opened every door just to feel them unlock. Nothing flashy, just click, 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 like checking pressure before a controlled detonation. I stood in the VIP section where Karen always perched, looking down at people like she ran the city. The cushions were sticky, velvet worn flat in the corners. The light caught a smudge of lipstick on the edge of the table. Up close, it all looked cheap. A stage set for people playing rich. I sat down in her seat. Didn't say a word, just sat there for a full minute, listening to the silence and letting it land. That morning, I walked into my lawyer's office in jeans and a hoodie. We didn't talk small. He handed me the docs. Notice of termination. Lease default filing. The operating company, Karen and Grant's golden child, had violated 3 separate clauses in the contract: repeated conduct complaints, failure to maintain vendor compliance, and liability exposure from staff treatment. They had written those rules to protect themselves. Now I was using them to evict them from their own playground. I signed it all. Black ink, fast hand. "Want to include the incident packet?" he asked. Absolutely. We attached full documentation, incident logs, timestamps, witness names, video grabs, not rumors, not hearsay. Just cold, sharp proof. Karen's mouth on camera, Grant's tone, staff recoiling. That packet wasn't for drama. It was insurance. If they pushed back, we'd make sure every lawyer in town knew exactly who they were. Before the next shift started, I left a sealed envelope in Stewart's office. Inside, new org chart, policy sheet, and a little yellow sticky that said, "You can stay." But not the same. I didn't fire him. Stewart wasn't evil, just weak. He let Karen run him like a remote. I dropped him to floor manager, gave him a choice, get on board or get out. That was the offer. Then I pulled Deacon aside. Big guy. Quiet. Ex-army, I think. Karen used to snap at him like he was a houseplant. He never forgot. I took him into the side hallway by the kitchen, handed him a copy of the legal packet. "You take direction from me now," I said. He read the first page and nodded once. "Copy that," he said. That was all. No questions, no grand gesture. Just loyalty shifting to where the power was steady and the paycheck cleared on time. I didn't stick around the office. I went straight to my post. Coat check, polo shirt, black shoes, back against the wall. Everyone thought it was just another night. Same lighting, same music, same guy behind the counter. But I wasn't behind the counter anymore. I was holding the fuse. And the whistle was about to blow. She came through the front doors like someone had dared to delay her dinner. Karen Denton, dressed in all black this time. Tight dress, high collar, hair pulled back like she was ready for a fight. Her heels hit the floor sharp and fast. Her mouth was already tight. No smile, Just that stiff, angry, rich lady look, like she'd spent the last 48 hours losing things she couldn't name. Grant followed behind her, phone in hand, not even looking up. Face lit by the screen, lips moving like he was doing damage control in real time. That man had the energy of a broken calculator, buttons still clicking, numbers all wrong. Karen didn't greet anyone, didn't scan the room. She walked straight at me like a heat-seeking missile. Then she threw the coat, full force, fur flying. The clasp hit my cheek and scratched me open right under the eye. I felt the sting and a thin bead of blood. She looked at the mark like I had messed up the scene by standing too close to her throw. "Hang it up," she snapped. "And don't take anything from the pockets this time." She turned like that was the end of the exchange. I didn't move. I looked at the coat, then back at her. And I said one word. "No." She froze, not confused, offended. Like she couldn't process the software glitch of someone below her saying that word. "What did you just say?" I stood calm, voice steady. "No." She tried to wave it away like I was just being dramatic. "Where's the manager? Stewart!" Stewart appeared a second later, already apologizing with his eyes before he opened his mouth. "Hey, man," he whispered, leaning in. "Just hang it, all right? Please, let's not—" "I don't work for you anymore," I said, loud enough for both of them to hear it. Stewart blinked like I'd just spoken German. Karen stepped in, voice rising. "Remove him! Now!" She looked toward the side of the room where security stood, like she was pressing a button. Deacon stepped forward, slow and solid. "I can't do that," he said. "Excuse me?" Karen snapped. Deacon didn't blink. "He signs my checks now." Grant finally looked up from his phone, looked around, saw the tension, saw the shift, and for the first time that night, he realized people weren't cheering. They were watching. Karen's voice went sharper. "This is a joke. You think you're something now because, what? You got a clipboard?" But her eyes gave it away. They weren't focused. They were searching. She didn't understand what room she was standing in anymore. I didn't smile. I didn't move fast. I just reached under the counter and pulled out a plain folded document, clipped it to the fur coat like it was dry cleaning paperwork. "Notice of lease default," I said. "Vendor violations, conduct clauses, staff complaints, signed and recorded." She stared at it like it was fake. "You're trespassing now," I added. "And from this point on, anyone who can't treat people with basic respect is going to have a very uncomfortable night." Karen opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Grant didn't say a word, and for once, nobody jumped in to save them. The music cut mid-beat, like someone yanked the cord out of the wall. For a second, nobody breathed. That kind of silence doesn't happen in a club. It wasn't awkward. It was sharp, like something official had just snapped into place. Karen tried to laugh, tried to turn it into a moment, like I was a coat guy on a power trip, and the rest of the room would join in and put me back in my place. She raised her voice and gestured around like she was hosting a roast. "Can someone explain why the help thinks he's in charge now?" Nothing landed. The room didn't laugh. The room watched. Phones were already up. The kind of stillness that says, "Don't interrupt. This is real." Grant stepped forward, shoulders high, voice slick. That polished CEO tone meant to control a room. "Who the hell are you? And what exactly do you think you're doing?" I looked at him dead on. "My name's Darren Lewis. I used to own Lumen House, before you helped bury it with rumors and pressure plays." I didn't beg him to remember. I gave him just enough rope to figure it out himself. And he did. You could see it. His face went flat. I stayed steady. "This building has a new owner. The liquor license is held by my company. Your lease is in default. You're not just guests anymore. You're trespassing." Karen opened her mouth, but it came out broken, half command, half desperation. The spell was gone. No one moved to help her. She looked around, expecting something that wasn't there anymore. "Pick up your coat," I said. She didn't move, so I waited. Still. And finally she bent down, picked it up from the floor. Dust clung to the white fur. The back of her neck was red, eyes glossy, face clenched tight like a cracked mask. I handed Grant the trespass packet. Simple, stapled, clean. "All incidents are documented. Any pushback goes legal." He didn't argue. He just held the paper like it might burn. Then I gave Deacon the nod. Escort them out. Front door, not the VIP. Karen flinched just slightly, not at the words, but at the direction. The front door. The normal door. She walked out stiff, coat draped over her arm, not worn, not anymore. When the door shut behind them, I walked to the entry. Pulled out a sheet of paper I'd printed that morning, taped it to the inside of the glass. Big, bold font. One sentence. Treat staff with respect or leave. I flipped the music back on, checked the volume, and walked back to the floor. Not because I had to, because I could. And I wasn't giving that room back to people like them ever again.